The lesson.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as someone that's travelled for, however many years, I think 18 years we said before, something that I guess the fans, when they think a travelling DJ, they obviously get a certain picture. It's like you go, you rock the party, then after that, you just party. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, party.
Yeah. Now, can you walk us through either any any particular tours or any memorable moments that you've had on tour that particularly stand out for any sort of reason, whether it was because of the crowd, something funny that happens on a tour bus, anything?
My first incredible moment was when I wrote one of my biggest tracks, Bass Phenomenon, and I played that at my club in Brighton. Hearing my record being played was phenomenal, and then also hearing Fatboy Slim play my record on the radio was a Goosebumps moment. The Big Day Out tour, like when we play every single show. There was one in particular in Perth where they've got those lorries, the crates, the big crates they go on ships. What are they called, those big crates? I've forgotten now. Shipping containers. There was loads of those at this festival, and people started getting on top of them, and that had to stop the music, and me and Dynamite performing, and we were just about to go into our House of Pain routine, and I was like, oh damn. And it stopped the music, and everyone was chucking bottles at them, all these people, because it was dangerous. So they cut the music. But then when we came back on and played our first record, everyone was so excited that they went ballistic, and you just saw this stream of people just going crazy. Yeah, I've had some really weird moments, like where I've DJ'd with Mos Def and lots of legendary hip hop artists, and just thought, God, let alone Big Daddy Kane and stuff, let alone seeing them, but actually performing on the stage with them is brilliant. And I've been lucky to play a lot of really cool festivals, Glastonbury and Big Day Out, and the other one was there was a couple of Falls Festival, that was really good. Some big festivals in Europe and some big festivals in America, and you get to meet a lot of the famous artists like Nile Rodgers and Beastie Boys and Run DMC. I never got to meet James Brown. I was supposed to play a festival with James Brown, and it got cancelled, and I was gutted. So I never got to meet him. But I was with Dynamite MC the other day, and he showed me a picture of him when he was touring with Ronnie Sides with James Brown. And that was pretty crazy. But I've still got loads more to do. I've still got places to go that I've never been. India, Japan, Alaska. Never been to those three continents. So I really want to go to those places.
Now you talk, a huge name, just in music in general, Fatboy Slim. And I think you said one of your records got signed to him. Tell us a bit about that and how that actually happened. Because obviously he, in his prime, in his peak, he was huge. He was massive. And obviously that would have had a big impact on what you were doing. So how did that happen?
Well, basically, he used to work at a night. This was before I was really as a known DJ. He was Krafty Kuts being a known DJ. I was doing little nights in Brighton, but he done a night there called the Big Boutique with a guy called Gareth. And it was massive. Chemical Brothers were playing there. All the big artists would come and play the Big Boutique in Brighton, and it was always jammed. And I used to go down there and watch him, and I used to was just like, wow, this guy knows how to rock a party, big time. His musical selection was just on point. He'd done all these things where he'd get signs and interact with the crowd. He'd never get on the mic. He'd just do what he'd do. And I learnt so much, because imagine when you first started DJing and you're in front of a crowd. Sometimes you just put your head and mix records and you're too scared to interact with the crowd.
Yeah.
Nowadays, those people who do that are the biggest DJs on the planet. Like Skrillex and Jowls and Dylan Francis and all those guys. They jump up and down off the decks and fly about, go crazy. And that's a big part for them. Whereas for me, I'd never do any of that. I'd just point at the crowd and, point at the record or get people to clap and stuff like that. Interaction. that confidence of doing that was the hardest thing that I ever had to do as a DJ. I could mix records and scratch, and I wouldn't be nervous, I wouldn't be shaking, I wouldn't be anxious. I'd be excited, but to interact with the crowd and look at everyone in the crowd, raise your hands up and get them to clap or do something, that is quite scary. Because if you're quite a shy person, that's going to be a hard thing to do. If you're a DJ, especially if you just started DJing and you're suddenly thrust in front of 5,000-10,000 people, and you've got you know, you're going to be like, oh, I'm a bit nervous, I don't know what to do. So, you know, I learned things quickly, and watching other DJs, I learned from Jazzy Jeff, I learned from Cash Money, I learned from Fatboy Slim, I learned from like Cole Cox. I learned how to mix records, play records, scratch, interact with the crowd, and become like what I would class as an all-round DJ who can, you know, perform in any country. Like some DJs have gone to like Asia and stuff. I don't know what to do and don't know what to play because, you know, these people, they like different styles of music, you know, and what's fed to them like EDM music, you know, you go and play like drum and bass or hip hop, and they go, I don't like this. So you've got to learn to change it if you feel like your audience is not vibing with what you're doing. And that is what another art of DJing is really important, the skill set.
Changing it up when you see the crowd isn't feeling what you're doing.
Even if you have to play a few records that you don't feel, you know, it's good to keep those people happy because it's not about you, about them, isn't it?
In terms of the signing to Fatboy Slim, right?
All right, yeah.
I guess as a fan, like it's interesting, you know, people hear that it's like, oh, so-and-so got signed to so-and-so. How was that? Can you walk us through that moment, that day? Like, do you get a phone call and they're like, yo, we heard a certain record, we want to sign you? Like, how does the actual process work? And do you know, the day that you actually signed, how much did that change shit for you?
Well, basically, I've never really been one for putting pen to paper. It was kind of like word of mouth and stuff like that. It's always been like that for me. And he basically came into my record store when I had a record store in Brighton. And I gave him a dub plate that I cut of it was an early version of Give Me the Breaks with Curtis Blow. And I basically sampled the guitar, the ding, 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 ding. And I put loads of, there was bloody every single old school hip hop sample ever in there. And I gave it to him and said, look, I think you'll get more joy out of this than I will, because I wasn't DJing anywhere. And I thought, if he plays it, this could be a really good opportunity for me. Best move I've ever made in my life. That £50 worth of vinyl record or acetate dub plate has kind of got me here right now talking to you. Because if I hadn't have done that and given it to him, he would never have played it. He played it on the radio, and then Ministry of Sound picked up on it, and they said, what are these music? What's this guy? And then they spoke to him, and he said, oh, he's got loads of other music. And I went straight in the studio and wrote loads more music. And I'd done like 3 EPs. And then Fatboy Slim put my record out fine. He said, look, we're going to put it out on Southern Fried Records. And then Scanty Sandwich came out, which went to #1, which was one after my record. So obviously the record label was getting a lot of attention. And that was it. Suddenly my name just blew up. I never signed to Southern Fried. I only put one release up on his label. But it just blew up from there. And then Ministry of Sound took me on. I'd done 3 releases with them. Then I'd done Slam the Brakes on album, the compilation. And then I'd done another one, Slam the Brakes on 2. And then I'd done Fuzzy Breaks with Q45, which done really well. And I started getting a name for myself as a DJ mixing compilations. And people loved that. And that was my forte, really. If you wanted to go online now, you'd hear like a Krafty Kuts mix, and I've done a Prince mix recently, and then the Golden Era Hip Hop, and then the Red Bull podcast. Started doing the podcast, and I just felt that was my forte, because I felt I was good at making music, but I felt like I was better at DJing, But now I've honed my skills and worked really hard, and I've wrote an album called All Four Corners, which really I am really proud of, and I feel like that my music is on the same level as my DJing, which has taken so long to do, but the music is on point now. And it's like the album's got Example, it's got Foreign Beggars, it's got Rodney P, it's got Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5, and all the tracks are with Dynamite MC, and it basically is about our travels around the world, taking in all the influences that we've loved and seen and experienced, and put it into an album. And we shot some video for some of the tracks. You'll love some of the tracks. Who's the DJ? You'll love Canvas with Rodney P. You'll love that track. That'd be right up your street. Like a reggae hip hop thing. Foreign Beggars track Boom Bap is just, it's got like a reggae kind of Caribbean vibe. It's so cool, and I'm just so excited about it. So, I just feel like Krafty Kuts has still got more and more to offer, and hopefully I can come back here and keep selling out shows. Tonight's show sold out. I know that tomorrow night in Sydney, Touchwood is going to sell out, and then there's a couple of other shows in New Zealand that have sold out, and that means a lot to me. That means that people are really wanting to see me play. I've got a big festival called Northern Bass as well in New Zealand, so it makes all that journey worthwhile. Whether it's to 250 people or 10,000 people, I'm still excited in the same way, And this all began from me collecting hip hop records, and then recently putting out mixes to just living a brilliant life of playing records for people.
How tripped out is it for you? I mean, when you found yourself touring with artists whose records you had in your crate. So tell us a bit about that, and who some of the artists were that you have toured with in your time.
Yeah, it is incredible, really. Like I said, like all the artists that I've pre-mentioned, like Rage Against the Machine and Bjork, and Mixmaster Mike, Beastie Boys, The Prodigy, Rolling Stones, obviously Fatboy Slim on many occasions. Oh God, there's so many. Most Def. On this tour, I'm DJing after Souls of Mischief, and then Dub Effects is on after, and then on the next night I'm DJing after Grandmaster Flash. So this tour's going to be really interesting. And then Z Trip, I'm playing before Z Trip at Breakfest in Perth.
Well, so it's you and then Z Trip.
Yeah.
Shit.
So that's going to be really, really good. And then there'll be the after party. So I'm bloody excited. I'm still DJing with so much good talent, so many people that I look up to still.
The lesson. 927. Oh yeah.